Hello everyone, I'm George from Ireland. Behind me is the house where Edmond Malone lived for much of his adult life and indeed died in 1812. So Edmond Malone did more to establish Shakespeare studies as an area of academic study than anyone else. Because previously Shakespeare was regarded as almost light entertainment. It was something quite modern, it was popular, maybe populist, and he was saying, no, this is worthy of academic study. So Edmond Malone was born in Dublin in 1741, and his father was a highly successful barrister who practiced in England as well as in Ireland. So Malone spent most of his time in Dublin, but occasionally going to Westmeath, although very few particulars are known about his childhood. He went to a school on Molesworth Street in Dublin, which no longer stands. That's where the Grand Masonic Lodge of Ireland is. So he had a number of older siblings, and they're well off. He was a communicant of the Church of Ireland, and just about every Irishman you've heard of in the 18th century till right at the end was in the Church of Ireland, because they had the lion's share of the wealth. The legislation on who could hold public office was exclusionary towards the Catholic majority, and indeed Protestants who were outside the Church of Ireland, that's to say Presbyterians, for instance. Malone, he went up to Trinity College Dublin, and he was known for his incredible devotion to his work. He got the equivalent of a first, they didn't have first class degrees as such at the time, was reading a lot of classics, translating Oedipus Rex by Sophocles anew into English. So it seemed that a glittering career lay before him. He's decided he would be called to the bar like his father and grandfather, and indeed his uncle was a distinguished barrister. So he followed in their footsteps. He was actually called to the Bar of England and Wales, but if you're called to the bar here, you're able to practice as a barrister in Ireland as well. I don't think you have to separately be called to the bar in Ireland, although the same didn't work the other way around. Supposing one's called to the Bar of Ireland, that did not automatically grant someone the right to practice the Bar of England and Wales. Anyway, so he practiced there for a while, often on the Munster circuit, saying that he didn't actually make that much money out of it. It's quite relative terms. Most people were dirt poor in those days, a lot of shoeless children, a lot of people were malnourished. But by the standards of the Dublin upper middle class, he felt he wasn't doing that well. I don't think he ever married, which I wonder if that was anything with financial reasons. Certainly later on he was well off. So when his father died, he inherited a great deal of money, and he came over here. He travelled to France a little bit, and he moved in literary circles. He got to know other Irishmen who'd made good in London, such as Oliver Goldsmith, the playwright, although Goldsmith died quite early on in Malone's life, Edmund Burke, and others. And he was a good friend of James Boswell, who lived around the corner. He knew Samuel Johnson slightly, Sir Joshua Reynolds, who helped found the Royal Academy of Arts. That's why there's a painting of Malone there. I'm not sure if it's by Reynolds or not. So it was the club, this informal literary circle was set up, and he was part of that. So he was interested in politics himself, and he stood for Parliament, for the Parliament of Ireland, but wasn't elected. And he was part of those who was agitating for a great deal of self-governance for Ireland. Like, we had our own Parliament, but because of Poynings law, our legislation had to come under the Great Seal of England, as in could be vetoed by Great Britain, which he felt was wrong. He doesn't seem to be at all disturbed by anti-Catholic discrimination, or particularly by class discrimination. Only those with a lot of realty had the right to vote. Nothing about women's rights. But anyway, he was a journalist, and he published lots of droll pieces, but then his special study became Shakespeare, and saying, no, this is not just fun, it's something which is important, and began writing lots of essays on it, analysing it, and publishing a multi-volume biography of Shakespeare, commentary on all his works, but that was published posthumously, and the same with other quite well-known writers. So that is Edmond Malone. Toodaloo.